Namo Namaha Bhaktam Sarvesham Hartam Swagatam. Welcome back to the channel Sanskrit Sopanam. I hope you are doing great. I'm also good. And after a long time, we are again adding up in our playlist Fundamentals of Sanskrit Language. So very early on in the channel, I created this playlist Fundamentals of Sanskrit Language. Within that playlist, we had 5 videos. And through those 5 videos, we spoke about the very basic, the fundamental of Sanskrit language. What are the different letters and what are the different word categories? What is a vibhakti, word case? All of this, we went through it. And then we started our series Bhagavad Gita, learning Sanskrit through Bhagavad Gita. And through that series, the main idea was to practice all these basic concepts of Sanskrit language, okay, to increase our grasp over it, our understanding of it. So that is chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita is still going on. It will continue. Now through this video, I want to talk about something very special. And a lot of you will already be familiar with this. The topic for today is Maheshvarasutrani. And these are also called as Shiva Sutras. And this is a very basic, very fundamental of trying to understand Sanskrit grammar based on Panini's Ashtadhyayi. Why? Because Maheshvarasutrani, this is a set of 14 sutras. We shall see soon. These are a set of 14 sutras that Sage Panini, he directly got it from Shiva, Lord Shiva. Because Lord Shiva, when he was performing Tandava dance, so after his Tandava, he struck his damru 14 times. And from that 14 times he struck his damrus, 14 different sutras, they came out. And those are called as Maheshwar Sutra. And on a very first look, when you see a Maheshwar Sutra, we shall see very soon, when we see the Maheshwar Sutra, all we see is different letters of Sanskrit language. All the letters of Sanskrit language arranged in a very random order. But I can assure you, nothing is random about Maheshwar Sutra. It is a very unique and it is a very brilliant way of representing all the letters of Sanskrit language. And this arrangement is what enabled Sage Panini to be able to present the entire grammar of Sanskrit through his phenomenal work, that is Ashtadhyayi. Because Maharishi Panini, through just 4,000 sutras, he was able to systematically present the entire grammatical regulation of the entire Sanskrit language. So, if you have to understand the Sanskrit language in its entirety, you just have to refer to this one text, that is Ashtadhyayi. Nothing that we read of Sanskrit falls out of this Ashtadhyayi. Such is the power, such is the immense beauty and power of Ashtadhyayi. And Sage Panini was able to do it when he got these Maheshwar Sutras from Lord Shiva himself. So such is the importance of Maheshwar Sutra. And the reason I am taking this Maheshwar Sutra is because in the follow-up videos, I want to pick up this topic of suffix, of pratyaya. And I want to discuss about how these suffixes, they actually modify a dhatu or a pratipadika based on the kind of pratyaya they are. So we already have gone through so many pratyas through these Bhagavad Gita shlokas, and we know that every suffix, it have its own function. But a lot of time there is a confusion as to how this suffix is actually modifying a dhatu. So, and that is the reason that whenever we see a word, so always we have to refer to a dictionary that, okay, what is this word? What is the meaning? But if we understand how a pratyay is modifying a dhatu, or if how it is modifying a pratipadika, then we don't have to refer to a dictionary every time we see a new word. We can just identify that, okay, this is the dhatu and this suffix might have modified it. And we can understand the meaning. So we can only understand it once we know how a pratyay, how a suffix works. So we have to take a look at that. So for that, we will be needing Maheshwar Sutra. So that is also reason why I'm taking this particular Maheshwar Sutra topic in this video. But okay, enough of the talking now. Let us directly now go to our main content. Okay, so Maheshwar Sutrani, a very unique arrangement of Sanskrit letters. And why I say so is because these are all the 14 Maheshwar Sutras, as you can see. So I have numbered them 1, 2, 3, 4 till 14. And on a very first look, you can see these are all the different letters of Sanskrit language, but they are arranged in an order that is quite peculiar. Okay, that is quite random order, because in a school we are taught like a, I, u. And even the consonants, they are taught to us like ka, kha, ga, gha, nga, cha, cha, ja, ja, nya. But here the consonants are also very differently arranged. But either way, these are the 14 sutras. These are the 14 sets of sound that emanated from Shiva's damru. Okay, and we are going to talk about them in a bit more detail. But first, let me go through them once. Okay. A, I, un, rilik, eong, ayouch, hayavarat, lan, yamangananam, jhabhanya, ghadadash, jabagadadash, khapachhatata, chatatav, kapai, shashasar, hal. Okay, so this is how the sutras go, and now you can already see that the last letters of each sutras I have marked in a different color. Okay, So all these last ones, they have a special name, okay, and these are called as it letters. As you can see on the screen, the letters at the end of each sutras, these are called as it letters. And it in Sanskrit, this basically means an indicatory letter, that they are just like a placeholder, that they are just used there to indicate something. Okay, so these are called as it letters, indicatory letters. How they are used, why they are used, we'll talk about this when we move forward, okay. And apart from these it letters, the rest, all the rest, they are all the different letters of Sanskrit language, okay. Now you can ask a question that I see a, but I do not see a dirgha a. Same goes for E also, that I see a Risva E, but I do not see a Dirgha E. So this question might come to a lot of people, and the way these Maheshwar Sutras work. So all these simple vowels, no, all these simple vowels, they are representative of their Dirgha form also. So this A is inclusive of this Dirgha A. Similarly, this E is representative of both Risva E and Dirgha E. Same goes for U, same goes for Ri, and this particular vowel does not have the Dirgha form. Okay, so just understand this thing that A, I, U, Ri, Li, all these 5 simple vowels, they are representative of both their short form and their Dirgha form. Actually, they are representative of all the 18 different forms of this A. And what are these 18 different forms? Again, this is a different topic. I don't want to go into that. But for us to understand is just this point, that this A is inclusive of this Dirgha form also. Same goes for I, U and Ri also. Okay. And then there is also one more clarification that I want to give. When we see different consonants mentioned in Maheshwar Sutra. So suppose we take this Ja. Okay, when I see this Ja. So what we see here is this Ja consonant along with this A swara, right? Because all the consonants mentioned in Maheshwar Sutra, they don't have this halanta. So they already have this A swara in them. But please understand that this A is only added with these consonants for pronunciation purpose. Because we have to add some vowel to be able to pronounce these consonants, right? So all the consonants that you see in Maheshwar Sutras, this Gha, so they are basically talking about the consonant only. They are talking about the consonant with the halanta. But the A is only added here for the pronunciation purpose. Okay, so just be sure of these points. So we saw what are it letters, the indicatory letters, and we also saw that all the simple vowels, they are representing their dirgha form also. Okay, and similarly all the consonants, they are along with the A just for the pronunciation purpose. That is all. Okay, so just remember these points about Maheshwar Sutra. And now let us try to dive a bit more deeper, because when we see this Maheshwar Sutra, it is not all random, as I said. Because see, there is a way to understand this arrangement. And one way is this, that all these 1 to 4 sutras, all of these, they are representing the vowels. And from 5th sutra up till the last 14th sutra, they are all representing the consonants, the vyanjanani. And the same you can see it for yourself also. Don't confuse that this vowel section, this have this rana, this ka. Again, these are the it letters, the indicatory letters. So they are not basically forming the part of actual Maheshwar Sutras. They are just there to indicate something. What? We shall see later in the video. We only have to focus on all the letters except these it letters. Okay. So then you can clearly see that this section is representing all the swaras, all the vowels, and this section is representing all the consonants. Okay. So clearly not so random. And then again, we can go a bit deeper still, and we can see that Sutra 5th and 6th, they represent the semi-vowels. Okay, because right after coming from vowel, you meet the semi-vowels, the antastha vyanjana. So ya, va, ra, la, all these are semi-vowels. And similarly, in the last you see these sibilants, the ushma vyanjana, right? Ushmanaha. So sha, sha, sa and ha. So Sutra 5th and 6th, they represent the semi-vowels, and Sutra 13 and 14, they represent the sibilants, the ushma vyanjana. And both of them, they are basically the avargiya vyanjana. They are ungrouped consonants, right? So within consonant also, there is a division, the ungrouped consonants and all the vargiya vyanjana, the grouped consonants. So these two categories, semi-vowels and sibilants, they belong to ungrouped consonants. Okay, and if we'll move forward, so now what we are left with is the Sutra 7 to 12, they represent all the vargiya vyanjana, all the grouped consonant. Okay, and now see, within these grouped consonant also, there is a particular arrangement. And that arrangement is this C5, C4, C3, C2, C1. With this C5, C4, I basically mean in a varga. Suppose you take this Ka varga. So in the Ka varga, you have this Ka, Kha, Ga, Gha, Nga. So basically every varga, every group, it have 5 consonants, right? So I am mentioning to them as this C1, C2, C3 up till C5. C5 we generally know C5 are the Anunasika consonant, right? All the nasal consonant, and that you can see that Sutra 7, it contains all the 5 nasal consonants. Right, and if you come to this Sutra 8 and 9, so they represent the C4, the fourth letters of each Varga. So as you can see, Jha, Bha, Gha, Dha, Dha. Again see, I am not including these ith letters. I am just counting the main content. Jha, Bha, Gha, Dha, Dha. So all these five are the fourth letters of each Varga. Okay, and then if you move on, in the 10th Sutra, you have all the C3. Ja, ba, ga, da, da. So all the five letters and each of them are the third letter of their respective group. So these are the C3. Okay. And then lastly in the 11th and 12th you cover the C2 and the C1. So if you can see here, kha, pha, cha, tha, tha. So all these five, they are all the C2, right? And then lastly you have this cha, ta, ta, kappa. These are the first consonants of each varga. Okay, so you can clearly see that within this grouped consonant also there is a unique arrangement C5, C4, C3, C2, C1. Okay, I hope this is entirely clear. And now with this information, if you'll see this Maheshwar Sutra, so now this entire arrangement will not feel as random as it did before, because now you can clearly see that there is these simple vowels, then there is this diphthongs. No, even these vowels are arranged in this way, that these are the simple vowels and then these are the diphthongs, a, o, I, o. Okay, so we start with these vowels and then we see these semi vowels. And then we see all the Vargiya consonant, all the grouped consonants. And then lastly, we see all the Ushma Vyanjana, all the sibilants. And now with this, I hope you can understand my point that Maheshwar Sutra, on a first look, it may look like random arrangement, but it is in no way random. It has so much logic behind it. Actually, its logic even surpasses our own understanding. And why? Because behind all these sutras, because all these 14 sutras, there is also an esoteric meaning. There is also a more subtler meaning that works on a spiritual plane. And that entire meaning is described in a text that is Nandikeshwara Kashika. Okay, so this text is supposedly written by Nandikeshwara. And this entire text is the commentary on these Maheshwar Sutras. And that explains the subtler meaning of this Maheshwar Sutras, the more esoteric meaning behind it. So different tattvas starting from Mahat up till the cross, the Panch Mahabhuta. So all these tattvas that are mentioned in the creation and the evolution, that science that is dealt in the Samkhya philosophy, Samkhya Darshan by Sage Kapila. So you find a lot of reflection in these Maheshwar Sutras also when you read the commentary on them. And apart from these references of Samkhya Darshan, there is still a greater, a more profound meaning behind it. That there is a mention of Brahman, there is a mention of supreme reality, there is a mention of Maya, Ishvara. So it has a lot of profoundness in it. So it is again not a random arrangement, but we don't have to go in that aspect, that esoteric meaning. If you are interested in that, again the text is Nandikeshwara Kashika, commentary on this Maheshwar Sutra. You can go and read about them. And we are just concerned about how we are going to use these Maheshwar Sutras for understanding the Paninian grammar. Okay, so that is our concern here. Okay, so now to answer this question, that what we have to understand from this Maheshwar Sutras, for that let us see this Sandhi Sutra Eko Yanachi. Okay, so Yana Sandhi, a lot of you will already be familiar with this Sandhi, Yana Sandhi. It is a very common Sandhi and we have gone through it so many times through our Bhagavad Gita Shloka series. Okay, a lot of you will be aware of this Sutra also. Now this particular Sutra, Eko Yanachi. Okay, if I do the Sandhi Vicheda, because this is also a Sanskrit sort of verse, if I do the Sandhi Vicheda, so it is Ikaha, Yan and Achi. These are the three padas that I get out of this sutra. Okay, and actually that is the beauty, that the Sandhi Sutras, they themselves are using the Sandhi, because you see here Ikaha Yana, there is a Ukara Sandhi that is happening here. But again, I don't want to go into that. The point is, the sutra is Eko Yanachi. If I do the Sandhi Vicheda, these are the three pada that I get: Ikaha, Yan and Achi. And now these padas also, just like any pada in Sanskrit, any Shabdarupa, they are also derived from some Pratipadika. Okay, just as if I write Rame, so you know that this Rame, this is being derived from the Pratipadika Rama. This is the Saptami Vibhakti of this Rama, right? So similarly, these padas also, they are derived from some Pratipadika. So these are basically the Mool pada behind these Shabdarupas, Ikaha, Yan, Achi. So from this Ik, you are getting this Ikaha. Okay, this is the sixth case. This is the Shashti Vibhakti. Okay, from this Yan Pratipadika, you are getting this Yan. This is the first case, Prathama Vibhakti. And from this Ach Pratipadika, you are getting this Achi. This is the seventh case, Saptami Vibhakti. Okay, and now please don't worry about why it is a Shashti, why it is a Saptami. No, that is not our point of discussion here. The important thing is, whenever we see any Sandhi Sutra or any Sutra in Ashtadhyayi, we see that these Sutras have these padas behind them. Okay, And now the question is, what are these pada? What is ik? What is yan? What is ach? What are these? So in Sanskrit, we have a special name for them. These are called as pratyahara. Okay, so all these three individually, ik, it is a pratyahara. Yan, it is a pratyahara. And ach also, these, it is a pratyahara. And what are these pratyaharas? So think of the pratyaharas as abbreviation. Okay, like we read in English, no, that CPU, a central processing unit. So it is an abbreviation. It is condensing a much larger information. So these pratyaharas are like an abbreviation. And what information do they hold? So these pratyaharas hold a group of letters within them. Means there is a list of letters. To that information these pratyaharas hold in them. So when you see any of the pratyahara, suppose this ik, so you can understand that there is a list of letters that this ik is representing. And now the question is, how do I know what does this ik represent? And this is where we take use of Maheshvarasutras. Because if I take example of this ik pratyahara, so see, every pratyahara, suppose this ik, so the first letter you see, no, this first letter represent the very first letter of the group of letters that you are referring to. So in the very first sutra of Maheshwar Sutra, you can spot this E, right? So basically we got the first letter. And then this last letter, this is the it. This is the indicatory letter. And this represents the end point. This basically represents the period. Okay, this is where you stop. This is the end point. Okay, I hope it is clear. So if I am saying ik pratyahara, so what we have to do, we have to open our Maheshwar Sutra, we have to start with this E, and then we have to count up till this it letter. So what all letters we get? We get E, we get U, then we don't count this rna, because this rna again is a it letter, we don't count it. So after E and U, we get this ri, and then we get this li. And then again, when we reach our final it letter, we stop. And again, obviously, we don't count this also, because again, this is also a it letter. Okay, so with this ik pratyahara, what I basically get is E, U, ri, and li, right? But pay attention to what I told before, that in Maheshwar Sutras, all these simple vowels, they represent their dirgha. Their dirgha counterpart also. This U represents the dirgha U also. So basically, this ik pratyahara, this means these group of letters, right? E, U, ri, and li. All these group of letters is represented by this ik, this abbreviation, this pratyahara. Okay, I hope it makes sense. Now, the second pratyahara that we saw, yana pratyahara. So, what are the group of letters represented by this yana? So again, we start with this starting letter. So, we start with this ya. So, ya, va, ra. We skip this, then la. And then we reach our final it letter, rana. So we stop here and we don't include it also. So basically with this yana pratyahara, we are talking about ya, va, ra, and la. So these four consonants, right? And again, pay attention to what I said before, that even though these here are written along with a, so even though it is written like va with a, but this is again just for pronunciation purpose. But what we mean here is these four consonants, ya, va, ra, la. Okay, these pure consonants. And now let us see the last pratyahara also, the ach pratyahara. So we start with this a, we go a, e, u, we skip this, ri, li, skip this, a, o, skip this, I, au. And then we stop here. So very clearly you can see this ach pratyahara, it represents all the vowels in Sanskrit language. Starting with a up till o, it represents all the vowels, right? And now you can join the dot that why vowel sandhi in Sanskrit, it is also called as ach sandhi. Okay, if you have seen the technical name, it is called as ach sandhi. Why? Because as per Maheshwar Sutra, this ach, it represents all the vowels in Sanskrit. So that is a connection. Okay, so I hope these pratyaharas, these abbreviations, this is clear. That these pratyaharas are an abbreviation that represents a group of letters. Okay, and now a question can come up that say if I want to mention only a single, only an individual particular letter. Suppose I just want to mention a riswa a. Then how can I mention it? Because as we saw in Maheshwar Sutras, that Maheshwar Sutras this will represent both the riswa and the dirgha. So if I want to say just the riswa a or just the dirgha a, then how do I say? So in order to represent only a particular single letter, we add a ta. Okay, we add a ta with a halant. So suppose I say at. So this abbreviation, this pratyahara at, this will represent only the riswa a. Okay. And similarly, if I say at, so this at will represent only the specific a, the dirgha a. Okay, so this is how you mention any specific, any particular letter, single letter. Okay. Okay, and now coming back to our this sutra, Iko Yanachi. So as we see that for every sandhi, we have a purva pada, then we have a uttar pada, and then we have the sandhi change that is happening. Okay, so based on their vibhakti, ikaha, this is shashti vibhakti. So shashti vibhakti usually becomes a purva pada. Then achi, this is the Saptami Vibhakti. It becomes the Uttarpada. And the one that is in Prathama Vibhakti, yan, that is the Sandhi change that is happening. So basically this Sandhi Sutra, Iko Yanachi is telling us that if after an ik, there is an ach, so yan, this is the Sandhi change that will happen. And now since we know that this ik, this ach and this yan, what do they represent? What group of letters they represent? So we understand that the Sandhi is saying that if after these vowels, you have ach, that is the swara. And then for all the Sandhi Sutra, there is some additional details also. Asavarna basically means it can be any swara except the one that is given here. Okay, so opposite this E, you cannot have another E. You can have any other swara. So that is the meaning of this asavarna. But anyways, if after these group of swaras, you have any asavarna swara, so the yana, all these are the Sandhi change. And that is what we see in yana Sandhi, right? That if after an E, you have any swara, then you get a ya. If after a U, you have any swara, you get a va. And similarly for Ri, you get a Ra. So we already know this as a Yana Sandhi that we frequently use in our Sanskrit verses. So see, to convey this entire information, that if after these group of letters, you have these group of letters, then these group of letters are the change. For writing this entire information, all Sage Panini has to do was Iko Yanachi. And why he could do that is because that Maheshvarasutra, that arrangement is such that it helps him create not this sutra alone, all the around 4000 sutras that contains all the Ashtadhyayi grammar, all the Sanskrit grammar in Ashtadhyayi. So that is the beauty, that's the power of this Maheshvarasutra, and that is what we are also concerned with as a student of Sanskrit language, trying to understand the concepts, the basic grammar of it. Okay, so through Maheshvarasutras creating pratyaharas, that a group of letters described by some abbreviation. Okay, so we understood what is a pratyahara and how does any pratyahara represents a group of letters. I hope this point is clear, because these pratyaharas, this is what is most important for us at this moment regarding this Maheshvarasutras. Okay, so that was what I wanted to show here, and now we will quickly see some of the very frequent and very popular pratyaharas. Not all, just to practice these pratyaharas, we'll just quickly take a look at few of the more popular ones. Okay. And starting with this ach pratyahara, we already saw this ach pratyahara. Ach represents all the vowels. Why? Because if we see this pratyahara ach, we are starting with this a, we are ending with this cha, and all these letters, they represent all the vowels in Sanskrit language. Okay, so ach pratyahara I hope is clear. Now if we'll move on, so you have this ak. So what is a ak pratyahara? So ak is all the simple vowels. Okay, why? Because ak, as you can see, is starting from a, ending with this ka. So we basically have a, I, u, r and li. Okay, so ak pratyahara basically representing all the simple vowels. And we use this pratyahara in our Dirgha Sandhi Sutra, akas savarne dirgha. So akah savarne dirgha. In that you use this pratyahara ak. Why? Because we need to have this group, that all the simple vowels. Okay, so that is it. Now if we'll move on, so we have this pratyahara h. And h, this represents all the diphthongs. Because if you see this h, so starting from this a, ending till this ch. So a, o, we skip this I, o. And we stop and skip this also. So a, o, I, o. These are 4 diphthongs in Sanskrit. And where do we use this group of letters? So again, echo yava yavaha. So this particular sandhi, popularly known as ayadi sandhi or yanta vanta desha sandhi. Echo yava yavaha. In that sandhi, we use this pratyahara h that represents all the 4 diphthongs of Sanskrit. Okay, so far so good. Now if we'll move on, so you have this hal pratyahara. And hal pratyahara again, starting from this ha, ending till this la. So you can clearly see hal pratyahara represents all the consonants of Sanskrit. And just as the technical name for a vowel sandhi is ach sandhi, because ach represents all the vowel, the technical name for consonant sandhi is hal sandhi, because now you know hal represents all the consonants. So hal pratyahara represent all the consonants. Now if we move on, you have this khar pratyahara. And khar pratyahara, this represents all the hard consonants. Okay, because khar. So if you can locate this kha is here. Starting from this kha, moving until this ra. So we know that Sutra 11 and 12, they represent the C1 and the C2, the first and the second consonant of Vargiya Vyanjan. As we can see here also, kha, pha, cha, tha, tha, cha, ta, ta, and ka, pa. So all these are the second and the first Vargiya Vyanjan, and then you have the 3 sibilants, sha, sha, sa. And so you can see this khara pratyahara, this represents all the hard consonants. Okay, and where do we see the use of these group of letters? So again, sandhi is like charto sandhi. The sutra is kharicha. So in that Kharicha Sutra, you see this Pratyahara Khar because we are representing all the hard consonants. Okay, so far so good. Now we see this Pratyahara, Hash Pratyahara, again a very common popular Pratyahara. And Hash, this represents all the soft consonants. Okay, so you can already see that 5 and 6, they represent the semi-vowels. They represent the semi-vowels, and up till here, it represents C5, C4 and C3. That is the third, fourth and fifth Vargiya consonant. Okay, so the semi-vowels and the C5, C4, C3, they all together represent the soft consonants, the Mridyu Vyanjana. And to represent such a large group of letters, we can basically use this simple Hash Pratyahara. And we see the use of these soft consonants in a lot of Sandhis, because you take example of the Utva Sandhi. In that Utva Sandhi, if after an aha, you have a Mridyu Vyanjana, that aha becomes O. So Hashicha, that is the extension sutra, Hashicha. So there you use this pratyahara only to represent all the soft consonants. And just an extension of it is Ash. Okay, so before we spoke about Hush, that is starting from Ha till this Sha. So Hush, all the soft consonants. And if I say Ash pratyahara, so basically the starting point is now A. So that will include all the vowels also. So this Ash, this basically means the vowels plus the soft consonants. And this particular combination of all the vowels plus all the soft consonants, this combination is also used in a lot of Sandhis. So you take this Jastu Sandhi, Jhalam Jashonte. In that also you have this Ashipare. So there you use these pratyaharas. Why? Because you want to represent all the vowels plus all the soft consonants represented by this simple abbreviation Ash. Okay, so I hope it is clear. And now again, this Jash Pratyahara. So again, you can see the end point is same for Hush, Ash, Jash. That ending here with this It and Jash. So we are starting with this Ja. So we are basically talking about this C3. We are specifically talking about the third Vyanjana of the Vargiya Vyanjana of the grouped consonants Ja, Ba, Ga, Da, Da. And just by this Pratyahara, Jash Pratyahara, this name only you will guess that it is used in Jastu Sandhi, Jhalam Jashonte. There is, you have this Pratyahara Jash representing the C3 consonants, the third consonant of each Varga. Okay, I hope it is clear. And then lastly, we also see this Pratyahara, Jhal Pratyahara. Jhal. So let us see. We are starting from this Jha available in the 8th Sutra and we are going up till this La. So you can clearly see that this entire group of letters, Jhal, this is representing C1 to C4 plus the sibilants. So basically it is representing all the consonants except the semi-vowels and except the Anunasika. Okay, that is why I have written Jhal Pratyahara C1 to C4 plus the sibilants. And this particular group of letters again is very commonly used in again a lot of sandhis. You take this Kutva Sandhi, okay, Chohu Kuhu. So in that you have this Jhal Pratyahara again representing this C1 to C4 plus the sibilants if any of these consonants are there to represent that. Okay, so I hope this Jhal Pratyahara, this is also clear. Okay, so we saw a few examples of Pratyaharas. There are so many more. You can always create your own Pratyahara to represent a certain group of letters that you want to represent. Just you know the drill now, that to create a Pratyahara, the first letter is the first letter of that entire group and the last is the last ith letter where you have to stop. So that abbreviation will cover a certain group of letters. These are Pratyaharas. We saw a few of the commons one and that we frequently used in Sandhi Sutras and all. But you can already see that just by using this Pratyahara, you save so much space, you save so much repetition. Just by this two letter Pratyahara, this two letter abbreviation, you are conveying such a great information. Such a large sutra like Yanasandhi, that if these letters only represented by Iko Yanachi, simple as that, so concise. And that is the nature of sutras. And imagine that Sage Panini, he is writing the grammar for a language that is so wide as Sanskrit. To write an entire grammar for this entire language, and that also done in just 4,000 sutras, you have to be so precise. You have to be so condensed, so compact, without losing any essential information. That all is possible only by using these pratyaharas, these mechanisms of creating sutras. Okay, and having said this, I hope the entire session, it was entertaining, it was beneficial. Even if you knew, you had some idea of Maheshwarasutras, I hope there was some point that was new to you, or that made your understanding even more clearer. So I hope it was entertaining. And again, using this pratyaharas, using this information, you can again now try to attempt the Ashtadhyayi Sutra PDF that I attach with all the Bhagavad Gita shlokas. That for all the sandhis that these Bhagavad Gita shlokas have, for all the sandhis there is a Ashtadhyayi Sutra sheet that I created. Now you can refer to that sheet, and that sheet will make more sense, because in the initially it can look a bit intimidating. What are these abbreviations written? But now that you know what are these abbreviations, you can at least attempt to read that. So I hope you will try that. Again, if any doubt, you can rewatch this video. Again, if the video does not clarify it, you can always email me. You can write me your doubt. I will try my best to clarify it. And if I made some mistake, if there is any feedback, feel free to write to me again. You can write it on the comment. I will try to clarify it or address the issue in the next video or in the comment section only. But please feel free to write to me with any feedback, any criticism, any doubt. I'll try my best to resolve it, clarify it. But I'll meet you in another video with some new information. Until then, stay awesome, stay happy, keep learning Sanskrit. Vayam punha milamaha. Dhanyavad.